my mother fell victim to a vicious scam call that drained $20,000 of her life savings.
"Congratulations, Karrie!"
shouted the man from the other side of the call. "You've just been picked as our lucky winner for the winning Wednesday day, and won a prize of $10,000. Let me talk through this so I can explain the process of transferring the money to your bank account." "Sorry, I think you got the wrong person." But the man's tone shifted, becoming more urgent. "Wait! Can we hop on a video call real quick? I promise it'll be worth it. If you see how excited I am for you, you'll know that this is real. Plus, I can answer any questions you have right there." As excitement filled the room, she trusted the caller and gullibly handed over her bank details like they were today's news. That seemingly legitimate offer quickly turned out to be the scam of the year, and as she watched helplessly at her funds being drained from the bank, "They even knew my name, Ezra. How can someone prey on older people and treat them this way?" she sobbed while we were sitting on a couch, trying to figure out a way to solve this situation. I knew that calling the police would add nothing but more frustration to the case. "Can you describe the man that talked to you on the camera call?" I asked my mother, nervously flickering the keys around my hands, feeling helpless in the moment, not knowing how to help her. "Oh, yes," she looked at me angrily, like she was imagining that man in front of him. "He seemed to be in his mid-20s, with green eyes and dark curly hair. He had a small triangle tattoo on the left side of his neck." She paused for a second to blow her nose and continued. "These scammers are not humans. They are monsters, and he is the biggest one of them. Please watch out for these types of people." Little did I know that I would soon come face to face with that same monster. 3 weeks later. One evening, as I was heading home from my usual bar, called the Nice Table, I spotted someone at the bus station. A tall figure, standing there with a notepad and pencil in his hand, scribbling something. Curiosity drove me closer. As he glanced up to check for the bus, I saw it. A triangle tattoo on his neck. There was no mistaking him. "Hey, you!" I called out, not even realizing my fist clenched in preparation for a confrontation. "You're the scammer who tricked my mother into giving you her money! I want it back now!" He looked at me like he was legitimately confused, as if he wanted to be as believable as possible. He saw my prepared fist, so he moved one step back. "Look, man, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm not a scammer. Maybe you've mistaken me for someone else." "No, you're the one. Even the tattoo matches the description. Remember Karrie, the woman you took $20,000 from?" He noticed my voice rising and the curious glances from bystanders. The man raised his hands in a gesture to surrender. "I remember calling Miss Karrie. She won a prize, but then my superior told me that it was a mistake, and she has been informed. Look, you are visibly angry with me. Let's have a drink, and I can explain everything to you. I'm sure this is just a misunderstanding." A drink seemed like a trivial way to address a serious issue, but since I was coming from the bar anyway, one more wouldn't hurt. "Oh, by the way, I'm Dante." He smiled back at me, while simultaneously watching his bus drift away into the abyss. We headed back to the same bar I had just left. As we sat down at one of the available tables, Dante jumped right in. "I work at a lottery company. I started in customer support, but I was recently moved to a new section." When the waiter arrived, he gestured for me to order first. I opted for a dark beer, while he chose a lighter one. I didn't want to interrupt his train of thought, because I was eager to hear his side of the story. Dante continued. "Mr. Ross, the owner of the company and my boss, is a reliable person. We've had similar issues in the past, but we always stop the process of collecting bank information if we identify a glitch. In this case, Karrie didn't win the money. Another woman with the same name did." "Then how do you explain the missing $20,000 from my mother's bank account?" I asked, looking straight into his eyes while taking a large sip of my drink to ease the anger I had towards him. Dante sighed, and his voice became deeper. "We believe there's a group of hackers, possibly a trio, collecting people's bank information through our system and redirecting it to their own accounts. That way, they keep their hands clean while we take the heat for handing out prizes." He leaned forward. "Trust me, I'm just as angry about this as you are, if not more. I hate injustice." Something about his voice was assuring. If he's trying to sell me this story, then he is doing a damn good job. Am I gullible? to fall into his trap this quickly, just like my mother. No way. One drink turned into several. The more time I got to spend with Dante, the more I became intrigued by him. Throughout our talks, we exchanged a few soft touches, labeling them as if they were not on purpose. I lost track of how many we had, and soon we were at his apartment and spent the rest of the night wrapped up in passionate kisses and lovemaking. I don't know if it's from the alcohol, but we could not keep our hands off each other. As the first rays of morning light filtered through the window, a pounding hangover jolted me awake. What I experienced as the best night of my life quickly turned into my nightmare. I slept with my mother's scammer. What the hell? As I was trying to put the pieces together, I noticed that I was still holding Dante's hand. This is bad. I need to get out. I grabbed a taxi home, and just as I was inserting the key into the lock, my mother threw open the door, her eyes blazing with anger. "Where have you been, young man? I was worried sick. Do you have any idea how many times I called you last night? You need to let me know how long you'll be out." My mother is a very caring person, sometimes a bit too much for my liking. But what could I say? "Hey Mom, remember that scammer who took half your life savings? Well, I ended up spending the night with him and he took half of my dignity as well. I guess we're even now." "You reek of alcohol, Ezra. Go and take a shower. Eliza is coming over." "Mother..." I stopped for a second, trying to calm the beating of my heart and my head at the same time. "Eliza is my girlfriend, not yours." I'll keep the backstory with Eliza brief. I've known her since the first grade of high school. She was captivating with bright, expressive eyes that could soften even the hardest heart. Eliza is my best friend and the only girl I've ever been romantically involved with. We were often seen as a power couple, both tall and blonde. People would say, "You just go together." She's also the only person I've confided in about being bisexual, hence the reason for our breakup. We dated for about a year, but after we broke up, my mother took it harder than I did, constantly bombarding me with questions about my love life and evening outings. To ease the tension, Eliza and I decided to pretend we were still together in front of her. When Eliza arrived, she rushed to kiss me, but I only leaned in for a quick peck on the cheek. "Hey, beautiful," I said. She winked and hugged my mother, giving her roses, knowing it would please her. "Thank you for being so thoughtful, Eliza. I wish others cared like you do," my mother remarked, clearly referring to me. As I made their drinks, I overheard them discussing my late-night outing. "He came home at 8 this morning. Can you imagine?" my mother said. Eliza quickly intervened. "Oh, he was with me. Sorry, Karrie. It was my friend's birthday, and we stayed out longer than planned." Did she know what I was really up to? I watched as my mother relaxed, satisfied with Eliza's explanation. I felt grateful as I handed Eliza her iced coffee, playing along with our charade. After my mother started washing dishes, Eliza pulled me aside. "Where were you? You usually let me know about your one-night stand shenanigans." "I was at some guy's apartment. Accidentally, but it turned out to be the most interesting night of my life." Eliza's response was simple. "Oh," her hand resting on her hip. I knew I shouldn't have said that. She still had feelings for me. That's probably the only reason she covered for me, because of my mother's homophobia. "Shall we go for a drink? I know a place nearby," she suggested. I politely declined, citing my hangover as a reasonable excuse. Over the past 2 years, we'd hooked up 5 times, each instance fueled by alcohol. Eliza had a knack for swooping in with a drink and a diversion whenever I got caught up in a casual fling, offering me the forget-about-him medicine and forcing me to take a "you are straight" cure. 2 days later. I lay on my bed, looking at the ceiling, scrolling through the hazy memories of a blurry night. Now thinking, what Dante told me in the bar sounds like a huge made-up story. Just then, my phone buzzed with a new message. "Hi, dummy. You left your socks at my place." My heart raced as I recognized the sender. "It's the scammer," he joked. Part of me wanted to call him back, curious to learn more and willing to walk 3 hours just to see him again. The other part of me urged to write him a classic "go to hell" text, block his number, confess to my mother, and contact the police. Torn between these conflicting thoughts, I decided to respond with a simple, "Wanna meet?" We met in front of a local park, but far away from the local views. I was sitting on the nearest bench, repeating the speech that was previously prepared in my head. "Hey, dummy," Dante jokingly said as he was heading towards my embrace. I haven't even noticed that I opened my arms. What is this man doing to me? As soon as he hugged me, I felt a jolt of light from head to toe. After 2 days of not seeing him, it felt like they were weeks. How I yearned for that kiss like the previous night. But maybe this was his attempt to scam me for my money too. "How did you get my number?" I asked as Dante stepped back to look me in the eyes. "You gave it to me. Well, you gave me a lot of things that night." I met his gentle eyes with firmness, and he noticed in almost a heartbeat. "What's wrong? Still don't believe me?" I can't believe my mother would do something like this and lie straight to my face. Dante chuckled and gave me a teasing wink. "Maybe there's another guy out there with the same triangle tattoo on his neck." "This isn't a joke, Dante! If you're the one who duped my mother, it would feel like a deep betrayal," I added. "Could you please check with Mr. Ross again to see if you have evidence that involved hacker attacks?" Dante looked away. His demeanor was calm and composed. His posture and movements created a soothing presence that I found oddly comforting in times of hardship. We sat on the bench at the same time, like it was choreographed. "Mr. Ross gave me a chance to work as a call agent for a lottery company when I had nothing else. He is not the type of guy that would pull such an act. I'm genuinely sorry that your mother's money is lost, but I swear I had nothing to do with it. You have to believe me." Dante noticed how the situation was affecting me. The thought of deceiving my mother weighed heavily on me. I knew she'd be heartbroken if she found out who I was involved with. Dante interrupted my swirling thoughts with a tender kiss. As our lips met, we made our way to his apartment, this time sober. 5 months later. I woke up with a familiar scent near my pillow. Dante's perfume filled the entire bedroom. With a gentle tap on the back, I heard a calming voice. "Want some breakfast?" Dante asked, ensuring that I was covered entirely with a blanket as the mornings were getting colder. "Just a kiss from the menu, thanks." We exchanged some steamy moments before I finally pulled away. I had to go home. My mom and Eliza were waiting for me to play cards. The past few months have been a real challenge. I was juggling my secret with Dante while anticipating my mother's questions. I had to be careful, especially with Eliza, so she wouldn't spill my secret. I couldn't risk her getting tired of playing the girlfriend role. Am I falling for Dante so much that I'm willing to do all this to keep our relationship intact? The front door to our house was unlocked, gesturing to a sign they were waiting for me. In the kitchen, I found Eliza sitting in the corner. I sat beside her, taking her hand. "Are you okay? Where's Mom?" "She had to cover for a colleague at school. She said she'd be back later," Eliza replied. "I'm worried about you. Usually you handle these things so well, but this one feels different. I can't keep covering for you." I took a deep breath. "I love him," I mumbled. "I want to tell Mom, but she wouldn't understand." "I don't think he's good for you," she said with a concerned voice, putting her hand above mine. "You're ignoring the feelings of those closest to you." "I'll figure it out, I promise," I replied, trying to reassure both her and myself. But the truth was, I didn't know if I could. Someone would get hurt, and I would be to blame. Still, the pull I felt toward Dante was undeniable. I wanted to smile with him, cook with him, just be with him. He understood me in a way that felt rare and precious. Our worlds just matched. Eliza left without uttering another word. Her silence filled out the room, leaving a trail of heavy air and discomfort. I did not want to stay in my own house at the moment. I dialed Dante, asking him to meet me at our usual spot in the park. I needed to confide in him about the turmoil I was facing, as I was utterly lost in the chaos. When we settled onto our familiar bench, Dante leaned into me, pressing soft kisses against my neck. "That Eliza girl seems a bit bitchy," he chuckled, cradling my hands in his. "She's not what you think," I replied, feeling a hint of defensiveness creeping into my tone. "She has a crush on me, and I can't help but leverage that to my advantage." "Who doesn't have a crush on you, dummy? Have you ever looked in the mirror lately?" he teased. He had a point. I was aware of my own appeal. Perhaps my confidence made me use others' feelings to navigate my own desires. I leaned in for a kiss, lost in the moment, when a voice pierced through the tranquility of the park. Ezra! My mother's voice cut through the air, her tone echoing with disbelief as she spotted us from a distance. I instinctively pulled away from Dante, scrambling to create a plausible explanation. But my mother was quicker. How could you betray me like this? She spat. As I stood there, denial flickered across my mind, but the weight of the truth pressed heavily on my heart. I was meaning to tell you. I'm sorry. This is unnatural, she said, her voice trembling. And to think that this man is the one who scammed me, it feels like a stone has settled on my heart. Tension crackled in the air, escalating as Dante stepped forward. Miss Karrie, look, ma'am, my manager assured you that the money was never touched by my company, he asserted with a firm but strained voice. Don't you dare speak to me, or I will call the police this instant! She narrowed her eyes and turned to me. Son, this is the man who stole from me! As her words hung between us, a fierce argument erupted. Dante and my mother were going back and forth as the ping-pong ball. I felt the world tilt beneath me, caught between the love I felt for Dante and the betrayal my mother believed I had committed. Reality crashed down around me. This was no longer just a romantic entanglement. It was a betrayal that threatened to unravel everything I cared about. I turned to my mother with a desperate plea. Mom, please! I promise I'll make this right! Dante stood there. His expression shifted from shock to hurt. Ezra, wait, he began, but I cut him off. No, Dante. I can't do this anymore. I cannot continue to paint a picture of a happy relationship. My mother thinks that you tricked her into giving you the money. Until you can prove otherwise, I think it's best that we put some difference between us, I said, each word tasting bitter as I forced them out. His gentle features seemed to collapse, with disbelief washing over him. Ezra, you can't honestly believe that, he said with a trembling voice. I never touched your mother's money. I have to protect my family, I replied, the weight of my choice pressing heavily on me. I can't be with someone who could put me in this position. My cowardness ignited a sense of betrayal at Dante, and I saw that he was hurt by my actions. Dante's shoulders slumped. I respect your decision, he said quietly, then turned and walked away. My mother, still reeling from the confrontation, began to walk in the opposite direction. Ezra, think about what you're doing, she called back. But I was frozen, with my heart heavy with regret. Mom, please, I whispered, but the distance between us grew wider. The world felt surreal, like I was watching everything unfold from a distance. I had chosen to protect my mother, but at what cost? The sun began to set, casting long shadows over the park, mirroring the darkness that had crept into my heart. 3 days later. I was sitting at the happy table by the counter, welcoming drinks as my new best friends. My mother has not even looked at me once in these 3 days. Who would blame her? I couldn't look at myself either. Just as I began to sip my drink, my phone buzzed. It was Eliza. Ezra, can we meet? I heard everything from Karrie, she said. I think we need to talk. I agreed because I couldn't add Eliza to the people I disappointed list. She arrived quickly, ordering a dark beer for me and white wine for herself. Over several drinks, I shared my mixed feelings about Dante, Eliza, and my mom. I apologized to her, admitting that I asked for too much. She brushed it off like it was nothing. Ezra, I want you to know I'm here for you, Eliza said, her eyes searching for mine. But you have to be careful. This situation is more complicated than you realize. I nodded, feeling the weight of her words. I only had one bathroom break as we were diving deeper into our conversations, which required special attention. As the drinks flowed, the tension began to melt away, replaced by an unexpected camaraderie. Caught up in the moment and fueled by alcohol, Eliza leaned in closer. Our lips met in a fleeting moment of passion, and as I felt her longing and wanting more for me, I broke our kiss by pulling back. I'm sorry, I stammered. Eliza's expression softened, a mixture of surprise and understanding. No, don't apologize, she said quietly. Maybe we both needed that. Unbeknownst to me, Dante was watching from a shadowy corner of the bar. I turned around and saw the face that I'd already missed so much. I had no idea how long he was there and what he saw. The sight of us together must have felt like a dagger to his chest. I could only imagine the pain radiating through him. I need to go after him, I said urgently, trying to stand. But Eliza sensed the urgency in my voice and gently held me back. Ezra, wait. Let him be for a moment. He needs time. I tried to make a sensible sentence. I love him. Can't you understand? I love him with all my heart, and I've never felt like this with anyone except him. Despite her insistence, I broke free from Eliza's grasp and rushed outside. But by the time I made it through the door, Dante had vanished into the night. Feeling a deep regret, I returned to the bar. I ordered another drink, hoping to numb the ache in my chest, but nothing could ease the pain. Eventually, the night wore on, and when I was finally left alone, I didn't even notice that Eliza left my company, as she didn't want to comply in a failed case. I trudged home alone while replaying memories of the evening in my mind. The next morning, I opened my phone, and my heart dropped as I read a message from Dante. Do not speak to me again. Those words were clear and final, leaving no room for hope. But then I scrolled further and found another message. One I had sent him before everything spiraled out of control. An invitation to join me at the bar where I ended up with Eliza. I had unknowingly set the stage for my own heartbreak. With a heavy sigh, I sank back against my bed, slowly accepting the fact that I would never sense Dante's light perfumes and hear his joyous laughter. Why did I ever kiss Eliza? I asked myself that question endlessly. I found myself feeling a profound disconnect, realizing that I was simply not attracted to her in the way I was to Dante, the man who captured my heart despite the chaos that surrounded us. With Eliza, everything would have been simpler. No issues with my mother, no societal judgments, and no internal struggles. But deep down, that didn't align with who I truly was. As the weeks passed, each conversation I tried to have with my mother felt like an uphill battle. Imagine that I did this to you. How would you feel? Those were repetitive words. I knew that she just needed time to heal, and so did I. In this crazy drama that transpired all around me, Eliza became my closest friend. I felt a sense of obligation to spend time with her. One night, we arranged to meet at the Happy Table, the very same bar where I had shared a kiss with her and Dante. As I was nesting in my seat, with my eyes dancing through the menu, as I didn't know that I would just order my usual tequila and beer, I spotted Dante across the room, laughing with another man. Charlie, the lead guitarist from a local club. He talked to Dante, and I noticed his fingers playing with his curly hair. I used to do that, and I even curled them more. Charlie just played with them. At least I multitasked. I knew that I had to approach them. At the slowest pace possible, I went to their table. Hey, I'm Ezra, I introduced myself to Charlie, forcing a smile despite my racing thoughts. I'm Charlie, nice to meet you. He quickly turned at Dante. Is this your friend? Dante casually nodded like he was expecting me to walk towards them. Okay, Charlie continued. I'm gonna grab us a drink. I am feeling lucky tonight. Charlie blended in with the crowd, leaving Dante and I to stand there like total strangers. He didn't want to look at me, let alone speak to me. I hesitated, struggling to find the right words. I can't remember sending you that text inviting you to the bar. Yeah, as if that makes any sense, Dante replied with a flat tone. He glanced over my shoulder, hardening. Your girlfriend is here. I turned to see Eliza settling into her seat, deliberately close to mine. Would Eliza be okay with me staying a little longer with Dante? Dante, I swear my fingers weren't the ones that sent that message. I know I was foolish in what happened next. You left so quickly. I chased after you. Dante's gaze softened briefly, but the hurt remained. I wanted to say something important to you that night, he admitted. Even if I was upset seeing you with her, I didn't want to walk away without talking. Then tell me what you wanted to say. He took a deep breath and began. The following day at work, I overheard Mr. Ross speaking to investors. He said the business was thriving thanks to our clients. Then he mentioned Karrie, a prime example of a gullible investor. Dante looked at the floor with disgust. Mr. Ross, the man I trusted, tossed around Karrie's name so casually it drove me crazy. I quickly texted you. We need to meet, it's important. You replied to meet here, and there I was, seeing my ex kissing his best friend. I could really use a drink now. I had hurt so many, but I finally knew how to make things right. I miss you, Dante. I reached for him, and he surprisingly didn't pull away. I regret kissing Eliza. I want to be with you. I'm sorry you had to witness that. If you forgive me, my lips will only have your name on them. I love how you treat me. I've never felt this way before. For the first time, I saw Dante blush. I love you too, dummy. You're sweet, but sometimes too quick to judge. He gently placed his hand on my cheek, and the world faded away. We sealed our love with a kiss that felt like it belongs in a fairy tale. Excuse me for a second, I said, rising. Just as I stood, Charlie appeared, balancing 2 drinks in his hands. I couldn't tell if his timing was intentional, but he placed the drinks in front of us with a smirk before glancing over at another guy in the bar, clearly ready to entertain. Eliza watched me. I prepared for a difficult conversation. Did you reply to Dante while I was in the bathroom the night we kissed? Her eyes widened, with conflict written on her face. I didn't mean to... I thought... Thought what? I pressed. Thought you could protect me? I was worried. I thought if he saw you with me, he'd leave you alone, she admitted. But it wasn't your decision to make, I replied, frustrated. Dante and I have something real. I'm sorry, she said with a quiet but clear tone. I thought you and I had something as well. My gaze softened. I could not be mad at Eliza. I think it's time you find someone who will look at you as the only one. Someone who will cherish you and love you deeply. You are beautiful, Eliza, and I pulled you back. I'm done hurting people that I care about. Do not be mad at me. Rather, understand me, and let's move on from this drama. These words came out of nowhere, but I thought that it was the right time to say them out loud. I understand. I'll step back. But I just want you to be happy, Ezra. We had a final hug, and then with Dante, I left the bar. We spent weeks gathering evidence. One day, he secretly recorded Mr. Ross admitting to the scams. Our findings led to a police investigation, and the day his company was shut down felt like a weight lifted off my shoulders. Karrie got most of her money back, and my mother began to accept my relationship with Dante. 1 month later. I was packing my suitcases to move in with Dante and realized how many pairs of jeans I actually had. Did I really need 30 pairs of jeans? Do you need any help with that? My mother knocked and entered the room, lifting my wrinkled shirts and folding them perfectly into the last suitcase I had. Just help me with this one case down the stairs, I said, pointing to the lightest suitcase. She took my arm midair and pulled me gently into a hug. I'm sorry for not understanding your happiness sooner, Ezra. I hope we can continue building the trust we both need. I promise I won't judge you if you're sincere with me. Her calm voice silenced my inner demons, and I returned the hug with the same warmth. That's all I ever wished for, Mom. Dante arrived quickly, and as we loaded the suitcases into his car, my mom gave him a nod of acceptance. She was still in the early stages of accepting our relationship, and we were taking baby steps. As Dante started the car, my mom called out, "Call me if you ever need anything, both of you, okay?" "Yes, Miss Karrie, thank you. You take care, and please stay away from those suspicious calls," Dante replied before I could say anything. I was glad that we could put this situation behind us. I only had one question left unanswered, and as Dante was managing the busy streets, I asked him, "Hey, why do you call me dummy?" I looked at him and saw a familiar smile. "Don't you remember?" he replied. "On our first night together, after the bar, in the middle of our kissing, you said I was a dangerous man for you because you were falling in love with me. Then you blushed and exclaimed, 'Oh, I'm such a dummy.' It was adorable. Am I this stupid? I felt heat rise to my cheeks, flustered by the memory. How could you not tell me that sooner? Did you lie? He asked, reaching for my hand. Because I fell in love with you too. I didn't lie, I just didn't realize how serious it all was until now. Dante squeezed my hand gently. Well, now you know. We're in this together, and I wouldn't have it any other way. As I moved into Dante's apartment, it was the first step of new beginnings. Together we launched an anti-scammer business, using our experiences to help others. We thrived in ways I never imagined, and finally, I felt like I was building a life that was truly my own. Looking back, I never thought things would turn out like this. Confronting Dante, falling for him, almost losing him because of Eliza and my mom. It was a lot, but things are finally getting better. Mom's slowly starting to accept Dante, and I believe in time, she'll fully come around. Dante and I, we're stronger than ever. Starting this anti-scam business together feels like a fresh start, and I finally feel like I'm doing something that matters. The future looks bright, and for the first time in a long time, I'm hopeful. With Dante by my side, I'm ready for whatever comes next. The end. Have you ever been in love with a crook? Thanks for watching. Consider subscribing to become a part of our Rainbow Force and stay wholesome.